1939年秋天，曼弗雷德·沃姆的父亲逃离纳粹监视后，乘上开往上海的轮船，在船上认识了他的母亲。而喜爱绘画的聋哑孤儿也是在上海找到了自己的中国知己。这一幕幕铭心刻骨的回忆，一个个撼人心弦的故事，记下了20世纪人类历史上的一页篇章。
观众朋友，大家好，欢迎收看纪录片编辑室节目。那么在上期的节目里呢，我们给您播放了系列纪录片《逃亡上海》的第1集《避难》。近3万名犹太难民从纳粹法西斯的屠刀下面逃了出来，逃到了上海，保存了自己的生命。他们在上海这块土地上相识相爱，生儿育女，并且从事着各种商业和艺术活动。第2次世界大战以后他们中的大部分人呢，陆陆续续地离开了上海。可是岁月并没有磨去他们对上海这个第2故乡的深深的眷恋。接下来，请您收看《逃亡上海》的第2集重聚。
The people all over the world should know, and that is to be good, not just to not be bad. And the people of Shanghai were good. So the story is also that there was evil. There were 6 million people killed. But there was a city of Shanghai that was good, that saved people, that saved the Jews. And that the young people of Shanghai and the old people of Shanghai should be very proud.
When Jews look back upon this period of time, they look back with enormous gratitude for the fact that Shanghai became a haven, that it became a place of rescue.
Where shall I go? There is no place for me.
告诉我应该走向何方，因为我没有立足之地。
1939年秋天，就在德国法西斯准备大规模屠杀犹太人的前夕，一艘装载着犹太难民的海轮悄悄离开了德国汉堡港，前往上海。一对年轻人就这样在逃往上海的轮船上相识并相爱了。第2年，他们在上海结婚以后，生下了一个男孩，取名为 Manfred Worm。当时谁也没有料到，这个在上海虹口地区长大并上过学的犹太孩子，回到德国以后会成为德国南部巴伐利亚州一位著名的法官。
That's my Shanghai cat. To remember.
Good, share.
Let me come. Lukas! Lukas!
Lukas, schau.
Ich bin sehr dankbar dafür, dass ich in Shanghai sein durfte und dass uns das chinesische Volk Gastfreundschaft gegeben hat, dass wir dort leben konnten und damit dem Tod entgangen sind. Und darüber sprechen wir auch oft.
Und wie wir uns kennengelernt.
Ja, das ist natürlich nun schon, da war ich allerdings dann schon 20, also oder 17, nein, 17, 18.
Ja, genau.
18 Jahre alt, das war 1957, 58 haben wir uns kennengelernt. Da habe ich ihr erzählt, wir waren tanzen und sie hat gefragt, wer ich bin, so wie man so macht, nicht? Wo kommst du her? Und da habe ich gesagt, ich bin eigentlich ein Chinese, ich bin in Shanghai geboren. Und dann hat sie
sprachlos.
Also hat gedacht, ich bin Exot, so wenn ich gesagt hätte, ich bin ein Tiger oder so etwas, also etwas ganz Besonderes. Und dadurch war ich interessant für sie, das war gut für mich, denn da ist sie dann, hat sich wieder mit mir treffen wollen, sie wollte noch mehr darüber hören. Also ich verdanke eigentlich China auch meiner Frau. Nein, kann man sagen. Weil sie hat Interesse gehabt für mich und hat sie nochmal treffen wollen und dann nochmal und dann hat sie allmählich an mich gewöhnt und dann hat sie mich geheiratet.
Manfred Wurm 的舅舅是位音乐家，他也是为了躲避纳粹的迫害逃亡到上海的。在上海，他结识了一位中国姑娘，共同的音乐爱好使他们越过了文化和语言的障碍，走到了一起。可是，就在这对异国情侣即将举行婚礼的时候，Manfred Wurm 的舅舅突然因病去世，给即将披上婚纱的中国姑娘留下了深深的遗憾和长远的悲痛。
The Bible is Adam and Eve, the tree and the apple tree.
就是那个，就是圣经里面的亚当夏娃的那个苹果树。
This is sign language. It means I love you.
这是那个手势，就是我爱你的那个手势。
I think that's my father.
他觉得他这个人就是他父亲。
戴维·布鲁赫先生是聋哑人，只有他的儿子才听得懂他的话，并把他的意思转述出来。
And he was at Dachau 2 weeks ago.
One big picture for me for a permanent exhibition.
Oh, is that right? What pictures?
5, 7, 8 I don't know me.
1938年11月9日以后，德国法西斯大肆逮捕犹太人。戴维·布鲁赫就是在这个时候被关进德国南部的达豪集中营做苦工的。从达豪集中营出来以后，他就听从美国一位表哥的指点，很快乘海轮逃到上海。
Shanghai Power Company bookkeeper in Salisbury, and he was very famous in fruit and people, and good actor, high class, on first place. So he brought me in all over the service, to get me infighting. It was a wonderful time, but I don't know where the picture is. So I am very grateful to him.
老人用唇语和手势叙述了他同一位上海聋哑姑娘历时5年的由相识到相爱的漫长过程。
He met 2 deaf men along the public way, and they became friends, and it was difficult in communicating because sign language Chinese and sign language in Europe are 2 different things, so they eventually became good friends for the time that he was in Shanghai. They brought him to a dance or a gathering of people who have similar interests, and this happened to be for deaf people. And that's where he met my mother in 1941, and then in 1946 they were married.
It's so nice and sweet, and the hunter said, "You must be very kind, bring me food, bring me cider food, she cooks well." And so became good friends. Very good friends, take out my clothes, when all kaput, they fixed it. I have no money to buy a new set, or to send the color. Put the burn on. She made me feel comfortable. I understand very, become feel very long. Oh, it was me too simple. After 5 years, now, did you last mine? Oh, you're good.
就这样，这位中国聋哑姑娘把命运同一位犹太难民画家紧紧地连在一起。一直到他在美国离开人世。他和戴维·布鲁赫的儿子曾经为自己身上的犹太血统而苦恼。
If I look at how I grew up and how I felt about growing up, the first theme in my life for the first 20 some odd years was being ashamed of my family, ashamed of my upbringing, ashamed of my parents. I think that when you grow up in a society, we all want to blend in. We want to be part of the herd. Unfortunately, I couldn't blend in. I wasn't allowed. I think my parents had a very hard time in growing up. I think it made them who they were. And I think that because of who they were, I've been very, very lucky. They paid a very large price, and I think we all do in our lives in growing up. For some reason, I seem to have had an opportunity to take a step back in my life, and because of that, I've taken a very isolated existence, and which is a common experience, I might add, and one of pain. And for some reason, I've been lucky enough, and through the gifts of my parents and other people in my life who love me, I've been able to take that experience and have a different relationship to it, and recognize that in our experiences growing up, there's always pain, no matter whether you're rich, poor, black, white, in this case, Chinese and German. And I think if one accepts what gifts life has to offer, and accept the pain that we have to offer, that we can take these circumstances into an opportunity to understand from where we came. And if we can understand from where we came and how we're made up, we take them for the gifts that they are. And if we do that, it allows us the most important gift of all, which is to give love and receive love. And I think I've been very lucky that way. I believe this is from my mother's father.
是他的那个
Still good.
Still good.
Wonderful.
到现在还是好的，现在还能用。
Moist.
是他
Fantastic.
是他外公啊，是他妈妈的爸爸给他们的。
I know how to write. I like Chinese calligraphy.
Excuse me. He liked Chinese calligraphy. He likes calligraphy.
Not fucking my friend, Chinese friend, you're an artist. They explain me how to movement, how to turn, thread.
His
I'm upstairs now, I look on pictures, I'm in a picture here. You can pick up a Uber more.
Oh, and he also auctioned off his services. He said, how much? And people would call out a different number. So he got the most amount of money by applying his service.
Like we did with that.
Just the baby, get out of the bus. Get out of the bus. Get the rickshaw.
It was his friend who did that. It was the man who played the flute, who was the musician, who was the actor, who came from the Shanghai Power Company. His friend.
97年伊出搿本书的辰光呢，出搿本书啦，伊才会写信来拨我，希望我帮伊写一篇序。搿辰光我不晓得伊有介许多话唻，搿个勿单是60幅的迭个黄包车话，伊有几百幅了，各式各样的情况，有迭个物事。但黄包车啦，各式各样，我想黄包车有啥物事多写？伊黄包车帮人家小人家搬场啊，一塌瓜子圆台面啥物事，侪搬到黄包车上，弄到黄包车上搬。还有卡车，抛锚唻，像黄包车、落马黄包车一道帮伊推，搿能样子。搿种经历了，阿拉从来等辣路浪向也没看见过，伊家浪向。那么迭个书里向还有伊辣家浪向画图个辰光，两个中国小人抽了伊迭个画个前头，看伊画，拍个照片。
In Germany, the culture was such that he had no opportunity to mix with other people because he was deaf and he was poor. All of a sudden in Shanghai, all the social barriers came down. So instead of having to deal on the outside of society, and instead of being stuck in the German mindset, he was actually open enough to realize what gifts and treasures the Chinese people had to offer him. And so he had a feast when he was in Shanghai, even though he was actually very poor.
与这位创作了大量黄包车木刻作品的艺术家一样，许多犹太难民的孩子在上海生活期间都对这种东方特有的人力交通工具产生过兴趣。拉尔夫·哈布特先生就是其中的一个。
My parents didn't like it, because they felt that, Chinese, person carrying somebody else, is humiliating, You didn't like it. Now you don't have rickshaws anymore. That's right. But I liked it as a kid, I think.
At the beginning, the dean of the yeshiva didn't want to go on a rickshaw because he was not used to a human being pulling a wagon for me. What is he worth than me? But later on, he said, give him a little more money because he needs it for a living. Pay him a little more than he asked, so he should have that to live for. It is a livelihood.
Those are the
二战以后，拉尔夫哈布德先生跟随母亲从上海迁移到美国，仍然忘不了小时候坐过的黄包车。后来，他联系了一群同样从上海迁移到美国的犹太难民，在美国洛杉矶成立了一个黄包车协会，作为对这段历史的纪念。
Are you familiar with the rickshaw reunion?
Rickshaw
reunion. We have a website and a group, a reunion that meets every once in a while. We met last year in New York, and there were close to 300 people attending this reunion, all from Shanghai. And in 1980, they had a larger reunion. There were about 1,000 people. It was a different group, also from Shanghai, and they met. There were close to 1,000 people there, and I understand there are little groups all over the country. In Colorado, people from Shanghai, refugees that get together periodically and meet. Yes. These are people I have, yes, and these are people I haven't seen in 50 years.
拉尔夫哈布德先生一直在精心收集有关上海的资料。近3万犹太难民逃离纳粹德国，在上海得以生还的往事历历在目。
We're very grateful to China for having saved our lives. Shanghai is always in the back of our mind. We always talk about Shanghai. Many people, many of my friends have been back. I'm going back. I'm looking forward to it. And I have high respect, great respect for the Chinese people. And I'm not just saying this, I really mean it.
I'm sorry that I couldn't meet my grandfather and I wasn't able to have any grandparents because of the war. And my father's side also. So I really didn't have any grandparents. At least Ralph had the opportunity to have his grandmother here. And unfortunately, I did not.
My grandmother, an aunt, and a cousin of mine were put in a gas chamber in Germany. They did not make it out. My other grandmother, they felt I'm too old and the Nazis were not going to do anything to us. They're going to leave the old people alone. But as you know, that was not the case. So I did lose relatives during the Holocaust.
All of those different things, and he talks very much about Shanghai and in a positive way, and about all of his friends and the good times they had there, even though it was under trying circumstances, but they were still able to make the best of the situation and try and have good times in with the bad times. I mean, and of course, as children, you see things through different eyes than the adults do.
My father passed away in Shanghai. And that's why Shanghai is very dear to me too, because he is, unfortunately the cemetery does not exist anymore in Shanghai. And I wish I could visit my father, but I know he's there someplace.
I was already figuring out what he wants to go see. We have to spend a lot of, be sure we're ready to go as soon as possible when we arrive there to go see all the different things. He's really anxious to see it. He hopes a lot is still there, that he remembers that a lot of it hasn't changed that much, and he wants to go before it really changes.
And Putong used to be a place where the Japanese kept the interns, the American interned the Americans, and all the foreigners. And that is now like New York, I understand, big buildings, and so I'm looking forward to it.
60年后的今天，当年逃亡上海、劫后重生的犹太人再度回到昔日生活工作过的地方，心中该有多少感慨？广告后请继续收看。
始于辉煌，与共和国同龄。 经历辉煌，与共和国同步；再创辉煌，与共和国同庆，为中国经济跨世纪再展雄风，为您的安康生活提供保障。中国人民保险公司 PICC。
上海市区东部的虹口区，至今仍还保留着一部分当年的原貌。1937年8月13日，日本帝国主义侵略上海，成千上万善良的中国人，尽管自己也陷入水深火热之中，可是他们仍然对逃亡到上海来的犹太难民以各种方式的援助，纷纷腾出自己的住房给犹太难民居住。1943年12月，日本帝国主义发动太平洋战争以后，对犹太人的政策也从拉拢变为迫害。他们把大部分逃亡到上海的犹太人赶进虹口犹太难民隔离区。2万犹太难民和原先就居住在虹口的10万中国人挤在这块不到1平方英里的狭小空间里，共同度过了2次大战中最后一段艰难的岁月。不过，奇迹也随之出现了。不管你是来自德国、奥地利，还是来自波兰、匈牙利等东欧国家，也不管你是犹太人还是中国人，大家都在艰难中平等相待，和睦相处。当希特勒把600万犹太人抓进集中营里，用毒气和焚尸炉进行骇人听闻的屠杀的时候，近3万犹太难民却在上海市民中间活了下来。半个世纪以后，一位叫马丁的犹太人用录像机录下了他曾经住过的院落。
Weil ich nur mit meinem Vater auflebte, ich hatte keine Mutter mehr zu seiner Zeit. Sehr viel Hunger hatte und keine Ordnung. Und sie haben mir auch mit ein paar Krümel Reis oder was sie hatten, auch ausgeholfen. Also insofern haben sie mir auch persönlich Zuwendung gezeigt und waren mir behilflich. Das werde ich nicht vergessen. Und als wir jetzt im April 1994 dort waren, hat der Ding zu mir gesagt, er wird nie vergessen, wie mein Vater ihm als junger Mann geholfen hat, behilflich war. Er war nun ein langsam aufwachsender junger Mann. Mein Vater, das hatte ich vorhin schon erzählt, hat dann zum Schluss eine kleine Zigarettenhandlung und hat ihm mit Tabakwaren ausgeholfen, dem Herrn Ding. Und zum Abschluss, zum Abschied hat mein Vater ihm einen Ring und eine kleine Büchse geschenkt und er bewahrt diese beiden Gegenstände noch heute.
和马丁先生一样，一批批在上海避难过的犹太人，常常结伴返回他们心目中的第2故乡。
Tell us you shouldn't worry, we're not going to take it away.
So 22, number 23, 23.
年过你这年过 25, number 25. Here.
Here?
Yeah.
So how many Talmidim could you have here? The whole Lena Yeshiva?
Where this?
Yeah, here and there was a Lena Yeshiva.
This was the Lena Yeshiva here?
Yeah.
No, it was only a small room, 2 rooms, people sitting down about 35.
I can tell you that we were young people and we were very happy that we found a haven here when we came from Europe. And we stayed here during the wartime. And people were very nice to us. And we remember it very kindly. And we thank them for what they did for us.
And you studied?
And we studied here. There was a school here. We were young people, and we had a school here. and there were about 30 of us.
A religious.
Okay, a religious school.
Upstairs and downstairs.
And upstairs there were dormitories, people were sleeping. And downstairs they were gathering and learning.
This one about 40, but there was only a small group of 40 people. Many others studied in other places because we didn't have enough room. There wasn't a large school over here.
Because we went away from Europe. We are running away from persecution.
Your parents?
My parents, well, my father died here in Shanghai. So my mother lived elsewhere, and I came here to study with the group.
Most of the people, only Mr. Genja was very fortunate to have his parents. But I would say all these boys, all the others, none of us had parents. Unfortunately, we lost our parents in Europe. And we came here as young boys coming out of Russia, from Japan, came here to Shanghai. But Mr. Genja was very fortunate. He came out with his father and his mother. His father, unfortunately, passed away here. But all of us had no parents, no family, no one.
本杰明·菲什夫一家住在波兰。1939年9月，德国侵占波兰以后，父亲让他先一个人逃离家乡，再把全家接出去。本杰明·菲什夫经过西伯利亚和日本神户，辗转到达上海。不过，这时候他的家人像其他犹太人一样，再也无法逃出来，最后全都在集中营里被害了。本杰明·费什夫如今已是一位颇有成就的企业家，他的总公司设在纽约的黄金地段。
I really have to thank them to save my husband. Because he was saved, look what happened. We have all these wonderful children and grandchildren, and he's successful, and he does a lot of good things. We're very proud of him. And it's wonderful. We have 31 grandchildren, and we have 2 great-grandchildren. So we're busy with happiness.
Let me think the word. But, you know, you're going to be... I remember the song. Yahweh ping ming de chai, Hua wei li xing de kai, Ni man tai tung bai ya, tai tung gwai.
一批批重返上海的犹太人，至今还保留着当年他们远渡重洋进入黄浦江时候特有的感觉。悠悠岁月，难以磨起他们对那段历史的记忆。
Increasingly, other members of the family and colleagues were being harassed by the Nazis, were losing their jobs. One time, this must have been perhaps 1937, the Gestapo came to our apartment in Berlin. My father was at work, but my mother was there with my brother and me. I was perhaps 6 at the time, my brother about 3, and they knocked on the door, 2 men in leather coats, and said, "Heil Hitler, do you have a radio?"
Yeah.
And we did have a radio. We had a shortwave radio on which we listened, my parents listened to foreign broadcasts from London and Paris. And that was forbidden for Jews to have radios. And my mother said, "No, we don't." And the man said, "Thank you, Heil Hitler," and they both turned and left.
尽管骗过了盖世太保，但是拉尔夫·霍西的母亲知道自己闯了大祸，全家将面临怎样的结局？他们一家人终于决定逃往上海避难。拉尔夫·霍西走在少年时候上学的路上， 感觉就像是昨天刚离开一样。这几年，上海虹口区居民加强了对历史遗址的保护措施，投入许多资金重新修整了这座犹太教堂。在摩西会堂里，拉尔夫·霍西同一位虹口老居民见面。
Yes, for you from both of them.
I received a letter, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. It's actually a letter. Oh.
Yes. And
glad to meet you.
There's a picture of you and my brother.
Oh, yeah, you?
Yes.
No, you are in New York.
No, I'm in Philadelphia. I live in Philadelphia. I am in Germany. My wife lives in Germany.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Philadelphia. And my wife works in Germany at a museum. And we split our time between America and Germany.
本杰明·费什夫意外地在摩西会堂墙上看到了自己当年在上海的通行证。
My wife Sherry, my daughter Meryl, and my son Donald, and Dovey is called. They came together with us today to see the place where I was practically brought up. This picture, approximately I was about 18, 19 years old. And this was given to me by the Japanese government occupation. As you can see, there's a sign here which represents Judea, that this is the Jewish sign. I was fortunate enough not to go into the ghetto, and I was living outside in the old Avenue Joffrey. And I spent my time, my 18, 19, 20, up to 1945, when I was already 23 years old, when I left Shanghai and I went to the United States. My memories of Shanghai, of course, are very strong and emotional because it brings back my youth. At the same time, unfortunately, I was alone, and I lost my entire family in Europe, my father and mother and 3 sisters and 2 brothers. When I came to the United States, I was alone, but fortunately, God helped me, and I developed, and I grew up, and I remarried, and I have 5 children, married 5 children, and 23 grandchildren. So to the people of Shanghai that has saved a young boy of 18, 19 years old, nevertheless, they've already have almost 40 people that came out of my single life. So we are extremely grateful to you on behalf of my family and of so many other thousands who came out of Shanghai, who grew probably by now into the hundreds of thousands. Not only thousands, not only 20,000 that we heard the speeches, but from those 20,000, probably families of over 200,000 or 300,000 or 400,000 people who are alive today, thanks to the hospitality and the kindness and the wonderful reception and the wonderful treatment we got during our time in Hangzhou and Shanghai. We will be forever grateful to you for everything you have done to us. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
《上海浦东新区一所小学的学生们用希伯来语欢迎来自远方的客人。 随着上海城市建设的发展，这片旧城区即将被改建。把这段历史留下来的通常方法就是树立纪念碑和建立博物馆。
30年代，法西斯主义的出现，使欧洲出现了一种种族主义和反犹太主义的浪潮。
Millions of Jews trapped in Europe sought to escape, to find refuge from the hatred.
成百万在欧洲受困的犹太人，努力寻找逃离仇恨的避难场所。
Where shall I go? There is no place for me.
告诉我应该走向何方，因为我没有立足之地。
The only place that admitted Jews without a visa was the city of Shanghai.
实际上，允许犹太人进入的唯一的一个城市就是上海。
Regrettably, my family and I did not come here but fled to Hungary.
遗憾的是，我和我的家人没有到这儿来，而是去了匈牙利。
Where my family 50 years ago, in 1944, was deported to Auschwitz to be burned in the gas chambers of Auschwitz.
Stand before you with very mixed feelings.
今天我站在你们这儿，百感交集。
Surprise that 50 years later, after I was a boy kicking football here in this park, I would be standing as the representative of my 20,000 fellow refugees who lived here in Hongkou.
Not long ago, we were anticipating the 21st century full of hope.
我们不久以前充满希望地迎接着一个新的21世纪。
Leaving behind one of the bloodiest and cruelest centuries in the history of civilization.
我们希望抛弃人类文明史上最血腥、最残酷的一个世纪。
坚硬的石碑上分别用中文和希伯来文刻着这样一段文字：第2次世界大战期间，数万犹太人为逃避法西斯的迫害来到上海。日本侵华当局以犹太难民无国籍为由设立隔离区，对他们的行动加以限制。此区域西起公平路，东至通北路，南起惠民路，北至周家嘴路。60年以前逃到上海并得以生存的近3万犹太人，如今健在的只有1000人左右了。但是记住并重温这段历史的后人，一定会是绵绵不绝的。
在上海避难过的犹太人，如今已散居在世界各国，但他们永远不会忘记上海这个使他们得以重生的土地。同样，许多中国人也没有忘记当年一批批犹太艺术家对他们的悉心培养。
好了，观众朋友，今天的节目呢就为您播放到这儿了，感谢收看，让我们下周的同一时间再见。